When I step out my back door and into my garden, I love to visit with my favorite bugs. Right now, the milkweed is flowering and the air smells like hot root beer. It's lovely. There's so much life buzzing around in my little patch of wildflowers. There's a few bugs that tend to stay in one area or visit at certain times of the day, and they become familiar, and I make sure to check in on them. One of these little friends is the praying mantis, and there are plenty of them in here. I noticed 5 females last year, and they all left me egg sacs. I made sure to move them to safe locations in my backyard, spaced enough apart that they wouldn't cannibalize one another, not realizing that it might put my butterflies at risk.
What have I done?
My original intention was for this video to be a redemption of the praying mantis, about how misunderstood this magnificent creature is. But I don't think that's true at all. Don't get me wrong, the praying mantis is up there with butterflies and cicadas as some of my favorite insects. But I think regarding them as anything other than killing machines would be naive. I recently saw a photo on Twitter of a praying mantis eating a hummingbird. A couple of weeks ago, in my last video, I talked about my hatred and disgust towards the robber fly, using deception to murder my precious bees and butterflies. The praying mantis is arguably more of a deadly hunter than the robber fly, but my attitude is completely different towards it. I'm much more accepting and forgiving of mantises, and honestly, it's probably because they are prettier. Beauty isn't necessarily a marker of morality, and even if it were, I don't think it would be realistic to apply human morality onto wild animals, especially insects. When I see a praying mantis hunt, I'm more in awe than horrified. Maybe it's because they're more like ninjas, patient and lightning fast. They also seem so intelligent. Praying mantises are certainly interesting creatures. They look like aliens, and they can swivel their heads all the way around to look at you and scan their surroundings like a Terminator. It's a misconception that the female mantises always kill their mates after doing the deed. It only happens about 30% of the time, and depends largely on food and resource availability. Last year, all of the males in my backyard made it to winter, a long, full mantis life. One male mantis would wait nearby until the female caught their food and were already eating before he mated with them, which I thought was an absolutely brilliant self-preservation strategy. The female of every species is particularly dangerous when they are hangry. I was very fortunate that no butterflies were killed by mantises last year. A few years ago, we had some really aggressive wasps that eviscerated several, but I find with enough food for everyone, things were relatively peaceful. But this year, I am a little more concerned. The mantises really didn't show up in my backyard in a noticeable way until last year. Before then, I never saw any egg sacs or Uthica around. But with more milkweed and wildflowers comes more bugs to eat, so I don't blame them. It's a real buffet now. Once they hatched, I was finding them everywhere. Each Uthica contains between 50 to 400 eggs, and in the wild, their survival rate is extremely low, from between 5 to 20%, considering factors like cannibalism, predation, extreme weather, and dehydration. Like baby sea turtles, mantises lay as many eggs as they can to ensure that at least some will survive and carry on. So you know that when you see an adult, they've been through some real shit and have persisted, which I really admire, which is also why I can't bring myself to kill them. This is some real toxic empathy. I'm concerned that my regard for the praying mantises might endanger my caterpillars, and protecting monarch butterflies is the main function of my garden right now, as well as creating a thriving environment for other essential pollinators. I can't make peace with anything that might hurt the more vulnerable bugs. This is a near literal example of the story of the frog and the scorpion, but the butterfly and the mantis. Wouldn't life be grand if I could just train the praying mantises not to eat certain bugs? But they are opportunist hunters, and it would go against their nature. The solution, of course, is to give my butterflies tiny guns. The funny thing about this situation is that the praying mantises in my backyard aren't even a native species. They are invaders from China. They were thought to be an effective method of chemical-free pest control, and boy were they. So effective that they completely displaced the native mantis species and became naturalized. You can even buy their eggs on Amazon with overnight shipping, and I can see how they would be great in a vegetable garden. Human intervention in the natural world is really an act of damage control. Even with natural predators, it's pesticides and lack of the host plant, milkweed, that is the top issue with the survival of monarch butterflies. But sometimes in helping, we can unintentionally make things worse. Fostering caterpillars or raising them indoors can lead to new issues like the spread of certain diseases, or even making the caterpillars less resilient. It reminds me of last year when I put up a bird feeder that the birds loved, but that also attracted kestrels, which are small falcons. They are beautiful creatures, but they just decimated the population of smaller birds. Some days I would go outside and it would literally be snowing feathers, which was very disturbing. So I got rid of the bird feeder and the kestrels stayed away. Instead, I just have a bird bath, and the birds are thriving. And now they just eat my bugs and splash around to beat the summer heat. It actually brought out more migratory birds. I can't describe how distressing it is to be the reason that animals are dying, especially when I only mean to help. And that also applies to my butterflies. I have to stay grounded in even just a tiny bit of reality to be able to adapt to nature when it's trying to balance itself out. If I take a step back and look at the whole situation with a more rational lens, I think that I'm definitely projecting my own delicate emotional state onto my garden and these bugs. I am as small and as vulnerable as a caterpillar in the face of the things going on in the world outside of my little garden. It is only here, behind the rusty chain link fence, that I feel a bit free, a bit in control, so that when things like robber flies and other predators breach it, I feel personally under attack. This is supposed to be my oasis, my reprieve from all of that external evil. Is nowhere safe for the delicate creatures? In the end, my duty is to the butterflies, and I can't prioritize anything that might hurt them, which includes praying mantises. A shepherd's flock has to be protected from wolves, and besides, I know that if they were bigger, the praying mantises wouldn't hesitate to eat every single one of us. But that being said, I still can't bring myself to kill any. I've been using a glass jar and a paintbrush to move them away from the milkweed patch and away from any potential caterpillars. With the robber fly, I felt so empowered, so justified in ridding my garden of such a monster. But now I'm wondering whether or not I'm the real monster. And maybe sometimes, to protect the things that I care about, I have to allow myself to become that monster, uncompromising in the action I take. My grace for the mantises versus my hatred of the robber fly is more than just an aesthetic preference. The praying mantis is a hunter that may be camouflaged as a plant, but is still a skilled hunter that doesn't resort to cheap tactics like dressing up as a friendlier bug and using venom to incapacitate and liquefy. It's like an alien or some mystical creature, whereas the robber fly is like a dirty old man that you actively avoid on public transit, and that is my scientific opinion. I think I've come to a reasonable compromise. My plan going forward, other than relocating mantises as I find them, is to replace them all with the native species of mantises next spring. As I mentioned before, you can buy the eggs right off of Amazon. Maybe I can restore some of that natural balance and save the monarchs and bees by replacing the more aggressive Chinese mantises with the smaller, less deadly native ones. I hope you're staying cool and taking some time to go barefoot in the grass. Once again, thank you so much for watching.